For Unbound, I think that's where it's gonna, make it or break it for everyone is the fueling. I think every athlete there will get through that race because we've trained for it. But the thing that's going to catch people out is who's done the hydration and fueling right. For breakfast before a race, my go-to is actually overnight oats. I do like porridge, but there's something about I just prefer soaked oats overnight. And rumour has it you get more nutrients from the oats if you soak them overnight. So I tend to do that with either almond milk or oat milk, chia seeds, fruit, a big dollop of either peanut butter or almond butter, banana, and I'll probably do that about 4 hours before the race. And then 2 hours before the race, I'll probably either have, if I can, like an omelette or something, a few more carbs, just start the preload. And then pre the race, I'll have a gel, just so that you want the carbs obviously in your body before you're starting the race so that you're not chasing it. So that's what's so important before racing is the front end is actually so important to fuel so that you're not chasing your tail at the back end. So I tend to have a 1500 the night before and the morning of to make sure I'm super hydrated and that the sodium's in my body. Again, so I'm not chasing my tail with it during the race. And then during the race, I tend to have a hydrate. I'll either focus on, it depends on what race I'm doing, but for the shorter races, I might have one carb and one hydrate, then I'll grab bottles from the side of the race anyway. So I tend to use the 1000 in my bottles. So because I've done the preload of the 1500s during the race, I just need the 1000 and then I'll have the carb product as well. So before Precision Hydration, I was terrible, if I'm totally honest. I was so naive to knowing how much carbs you needed per hour. And I'd literally I was very old school, just like get around with a bar or something, then wonder why I had so much lactate and bonked with like 20k to go. And then I'd look at my fueling strategy and realise how bad that was. But working with Precision Hydration and doing more and more stage racing, that's where I've really seen the difference, because what I've done at the start of the stage race has been so important for that back half. So Women's Tour of Britain last year, there was one stage where I felt because I did the big breakaway on that first day, it was actually stage 3 that my legs weren't feeling as good. And then speaking with the guys after, it was that post big breakaway, I probably didn't refuel as much. So that the second day I got away with it, but I paid for it a little bit on the third stage. And I managed to get through it, obviously, and recover, but I just know that my body was suffering a lot more than I probably could have done if I'd sorted it out that evening. For Unbound, I think that's where it's going to, make it or break it for everyone is the fueling. I think every athlete there will get through that race because we've trained for it. But the thing that's going to catch people out is who's done the hydration and fueling right. And that's something that I'm going to work with Precision Hydration on pre the event of what I need to be taking. Probably even a week out, I need to start, even longer than that, thinking about what I'm eating each day to make sure that come that day, I know that I can do that 12 hours in the saddle or whatever it's going to be, and get through it and not cramp up, not be dehydrated, because exactly like the weather out there will be hot, so it's getting the balance of carbs and hydration. Roughly 60 to 70 grams of carbs an hour, which is, you do have to constantly think about it because it's so easy to, that's what's so good about having it in your bottle. If the race is on all the time, it's hard to think about trying to get gels out your pocket and things like that, especially some of a race I did last weekend, there were sections we were off-road, so taking your hands off the bar constantly. So if in a downtime you can take a gulp of fluid and you know that you've had about 30 grams of carbs in those gulps, then that's the way I do it. The fuel of choice, I like the balance of all of it. I think when you're racing, sometimes what I love about the gels is that there isn't actually too much flavour, because if you have the one thing that I've hated working with products in the past is when they're too sickly, you don't want them anymore, and then you stop eating them, and then as a result, you're bonking. So precision hydration gels, that's what I can have all the time, and I don't get bored of them. But then it is nice to have that balance of the chews if you do want to physically actually chew something. Yeah, I really like the mint ones, outrageous. I love coffee. Yeah, as soon as I wake up, straight on the coffee. But then in the race, I don't use like loads of caffeine gels. Some people go mad for it, but I tend to just choose it in like the back half of, like, I know if I was the third hour of a 4-hour race, I'd have a caffeine gel just to give you that last kick, and it does make a massive difference. Fueling in training is super important. Again, it's something I used to be terrible at, because I'd be like, oh, but I'm not racing, so I don't need to fuel properly. But then I'll be going out and trying to do race pace efforts, and I'll get halfway through my efforts and wonder why they're now going terribly wrong. And it'd be down to fueling. So yeah, now I try to, you know, especially if it's like, I don't know, high intensity efforts, then I'll act as if I was going to a race and fuel with my gels and carbs in my bottle and everything like that. So when I'm on my gravel bike, I will probably have a camel pack again, and then because the race is so long, I'll probably swap and someone will have another camel pack on the road, and I'll put that on, and then I'll have probably two of the big bottles, gels, chews in my pocket again, and the carb stuff in my drink.